Alright, so let's summarize what we did last time. Last time we created, let me just focus on only the one that we have been doing. We created a new object from this my first window, and this my first window is inheriting from JFrame. That's why I have to use this set visible to show it. And then my first window here, it extends JFrame. Now JFrame is the superclass that allows me to have the window, the frame, or the dialog, or I don't know. And then inside that I declare those variables. Why? Because I would like to see these three components inside my frame. A label that is used only to show some text, a text field that allows me to input some information there, and the button that allows me to get some action done. So far what we understood is that I initialized here the information that was given to me as a title, so it will show up on the title of the form or the frame. Then I changed this line here. What did it do? It allows me to close and stop the application. When I click on close the window, the X here, now it will close the application. If I don't use this one, what is going to happen is that when I click on the close, it will just do what? The program keeps running, but it does something. It does something. Let me prove this to you. Now if I run this, this is the form. If I click on this now, what is going to happen? Well, the frame is going to disappear though. So I close the frame. The frame is closed, but the program is still running. That's what this does. Then we've seen also the set size. What does set size do? Just mentions what's the size of my frame. Set layout, that was something interesting because it just shows what kind of order or how does these components that I'm adding relate to each other, how they are going to be put inside this frame. Now there are many different layouts. They are called layout managers. We're going to see that, inshallah, see them in next week. But for now, we're going just to work with flow layout, which is the simpler ones. What does the flow layout do? It just puts everything that you add by using this add here. Everything that you add is going to be added to the frame from the left to the right, and then when there is not enough space, it just goes down to the line and then from the left to the right again until it fills in all what you added. That's what this flow layout does. Now notice what I'm doing. Inside this set layout, I'm creating a new object. I'm using this new flow layout, which creates a new object of a flow layout that is sent to set layout. Now set layout here comes from JFrame. If I click on this, it takes me this, which takes out a layout manager, and that layout manager is going to be used to set the layout. But here, all I need to do is to mention that the layout manager is the flow layout, and then it will deal with that thing. Now if I don't do this, do you remember what was the output? What is going to be the result? The last what? They're going to be stacked on top of each other, and they're going to take the whole frame. And the last one that I'm going to see is the last one that I'm adding. It's like putting them one on top of the other, each one the size of the whole frame. And that's why if the button is the last one here, if I do this, the button is going to be the size of the whole visible frame. If I increase, it will increase, and so on. So that's what this layout does. Now for now, we're just going to stay only and we use only this flow layout, but later on, inshallah, next week, we're going to work with different ones, and we'll be able to see the advantages, disadvantages of each one of them. And then with this set location, remember we just added at the last minute, just to, because this one does what? If I run it, it just puts it here. because I just mentioned 700, 300, just move 700 and 300. Remember one very important thing. When I'm putting these numbers, especially with the location, on the screen, the 0, 0, the center is here, top left. And this is the positive x, and this is the positive y. That means 0, 100, 200, 300, etc. It's not minus. We used to go down, when I go down, it's minus for us, right? But because they put it this way, now this is the positive y, positive x. So when I do this at location 700, that means I'm moving 700 here, 300 here, and that's why when I run it, I saw it in this place. Or is it? Was it? Yeah, that's this place. If I don't, it's just going to be always, if I don't use this and run, it will be here on the top. So that's why this is more convenient, so it will be close to the center. Let me put 350. So it will be somewhere to the center of the screen. Now if the size is different, then the layouts are going to be different. Now as I mentioned, if there's no space for more controls, more components, it's just going to go back to the line. Now what if I go back to the line, I'm not able to see them? Well, that's your job now to make sure that it shows all of them. Now what I needed to do, and I need to create this and initialize them inside here. And when I'm initializing each one of them has a different set of constructors that I can use. And you remember the text field, either I put some kind of text, whatever I put here is going to be displayed. So it's going to just to take the size of whatever I typed, and it will stay at that size. Or if I would like to have a fixed size, I just put a number, and then this is going to give me this. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I would like to add some action to this button, because now if I click, nothing happens, because I did not mention what should happen if I click on that button. Now how to make this button work? Why there's a lot of different ways. There are different ways. But one of the ways is to get an anonymous class. One of the other ways is to use an inner class. But all these, they involve implementing some interfaces. I need to implement specific interfaces before that will be the actions. And there's a third way where I can just make the whole class implement the interface, which is something that I can do. For example, I can make the whole class implement a specific interface, and the interface is called Actionlistener. Now the Actionlistener is an interface that just has one method called action performed. So this action performed, now I need to implement it. So I need to implement all abstract methods, but I don't have much. I need to have this one. So what I'd like to do here, I'm just going to do something very simple. As soon as I click on the button, I'd like the button dot set text. I'm going to make it just clicked on. Just clicked on. Now what does this mean? But btn is the button, so which means now if I run this thing, now notice this here, it shows count up, right? If I click on it, now I do this btn, this one, I'm going to change the text, which is this text, to be whatever I type now here. I forgot that I was running this one, so let me just close. I don't need it both. So when I click on this, the text on the button will change. So that's what I'd like to do. But that's not enough, because now this action is not associated to the button. I just said that there's an action, but action with whom? With the label? If I click on the label, something will happen? Or when I click on the text field, something will happen? Or is it the button? So I need to mention this action, who is going to be associated with it. and then this is where I would like to make it with the button, and in the button I'm going to set the action, or is it, so what action is it going to be? This one? It's not set action. Actually, you know what, this is not an action. I need to set this, but now I just forgot the, I forgot what was the name, but here this is the one. I mean, it's not set, it's add action listener. Now I'm going to add the action listener, and the action listener is in this class. So because in this class, my first window, I'm implementing an action listener. So in this button I'm adding the action listener to that is found in this class. So that's why I'm just going to say this. Now what does this do now? Every time I'm going to run, and every time I click on count up, it just changed to whatever would happen. Because I did that, just clicked on, is going to be the text whenever I click on something. So if I click on it, I click on it, well, nothing is going to change. It's already just clicked on, so I'm not going to see anything different. But for example, what I can do now, instead of putting this inside here, I can just put it somewhere else, which is in the text field. In the text field, dot, I have set text as well. And in the set text, I'm just going to, I don't know, put clicked. So now if I run this thing, I'm going to make it clicked. But what if I click on it, I want to have clicked plus another clicked plus another clicked? Well, I could say that I'm going to have, first of all, let's have the text field. Let's get what the text was. And then to that, I'm going to add clicked. So this means now, give me what was before, add click to it, and send it to the text field again. Give me what's inside the text field, add it to the clicked, and put it back to the text field. Now doing this is going to result on having clicked, 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 clicked. And the more I,
like a loop.
well, it's like, yeah, something like that. You had a question, Hamid? Yes.
What's the benefit for the action listener?
The benefit, this one, if I don't have it, it's not going to work. Nothing is going to work.
Can I change the location from here to public void?
The location of this,
No, location for action listener.
I don't get it. Now hold on. Let me just put back to something more. I'm just going to change the button to maybe just, yeah, cancel this to put it back as it was with the button. It was much simpler. Now you said add action listener. Now you would like to say this code over here. You ask why is it needed? I said that if you don't use it, even though you mentioned what should happen when I click on something, this is what should happen, but I did not associate that to the button, so nothing is going to work. Now your question was, now can I put it where?
Put it down. Change the location, put it down.
By down you mean where? Here?
Yeah. No, public void, action custom.
This, you put it here?
Yes.
It's not really logical, because you're going to associate this action with this button only when the action is performed. But when is it going to be performed? Who is going to perform the action? I don't know. I did not mention anyone. Any object, any control, any component is associated with this action. So there's an action, somebody will do it, but I did not associate anyone with it. But when this action is going to be run, then I'm going to associate it with the button. So it's not going to work, even if I do it this. But the question, if you put it there, that's fine. Can I put it here? Yes, you can. But it's better when you initialize something, just initialize it in one place so you know what you're doing with that object. It's much more organized. But if you put it down, it's not going to work. To test it, I'm just going to put it here, save, run, and now count doesn't change anything. But if I put it back where it was, run, I just changed to just click done. Of course I can change anything, I can change them all. I can do a lot of things in this action. It's me who decides what needs to happen. For example, I can also put the just click done in the text field as well. So now as soon as I click, I have just clicked on, just click on. I can also change the label if I want to with the same set text, because all of these labels have set text on them, and if I click, all of them know because just clicked on. It's me who decides, me the programmer who decides what the action should happen when I click on that button. But that's one way to do that. Yes.
The button have the add action listener, right?
Yes.
So when you add the label, why did not add also label action?
Because if I do action listener means when I click on here, something should happen. Now, when you design this application, when you click on this, do you want something to happen? So that's why, if you want something to happen, then you add an action listener, for example. But there's not this type of one, there's another one. But anyways, if you want something to happen to something, now if I want this, if I click on this one, something should happen. Now I need to implement an action listener. I need to implement some listeners to those actions. Yes.
If I have another button,
Yes.
should I put another add action listener?
No. That's the thing with this one. With this way that I'm doing it, if I have only one button, that's great. But if I have two buttons, there's a problem. And that's what I'd like to show you now. But yes, let me take your questions first.
Can one button have more than one action?
No. It's not going to make sense. But you can put all the action that this button has here. If you wanted to do a lot of different things, yes, you can put it here. But having two action listeners associated with it, no. So now what I'm going to do before going to add another button, I'm just going to make something that makes sense. I would like this to count up. To make this count up, I would like this, for example, to start by being 0, and then I increment it to, every time I click, I will make it 1, and then every time I click, I make it 2, and so on. Okay? Now, there are different ways how to do it. There's let's go for easy way. I'm going to make an easy way. The easy way is I'm going to have a private int that I'm going to call it number, and that number is going to be initialized to be, I start with 0. And now every time I click on this, what is going to happen is that the number is going to be incremented. Alright? Now this number, even if I'm incrementing it, it's not going to show up because it's just a variable. I need to display that variable before I can see it. Now where am I going to display it? Let's say I'm going to put it into here. So I need to put it inside the text field. How to put it inside the text field? I'm going to put tf.setText, and then let's put the number in it. However, the number is an int, and setText needs a string. So I can do some kind of typecasting. Okay, what kind of typecasting can I do? String what? Can you convert an int to a string? No. But there's something I can do. You remember, if I add something like this will make it a string. Now that's a hack, but that's not the best way. There's a better way. The better way is to convert this from an int to a string. And to do that is that you have string dot, and you see there's something called value of, and you have a lot. This is an overloaded method that is, and it's static, because you can see I'm not creating an object. I'm just using the class name dot. I have a static method that is going to, if you give it an int, it's going to give you as a return, as a result, a string. This returns a string representation of the int argument that you give, and that's what I'd like to do. Now, if you do something like this, this is going to take the number, convert it to a string, and you can then put it inside the text. String.value of, this method value of allows you to convert any type to a string. Why? How I know that? Because of the other options. You see, you give it an object, it converts it to a string. You give it a boolean, it will convert it to a string. You give it a char, an array of chars, a double, a float, int, etc. So now, if I run this thing, every time I click, what is going to happen is that the first time number is 0, so I'm going to, every time, the first time I click, it will be 1, and then this 1 going to be converted to the text 1, and I put it inside the text field. When I click again, 1 becomes 2, converted to a 2 as a text, and then display it into the text field. And this will make the counter. It's a loop where me, the user, who makes the loop, the iteration. Yeah.
Can you explain the action performance?
This one?
No, the action performance.
This one? Well, this is what I need if I would like something to happen.
Does it help me to click?
No, you click. You're the user. You're the one who clicks. It just helps you to do something when you click. But not really. Now, if I click, it's going to work also because I said that the button is going to be associated with this click. And this action is going to be associated with this button.
If you delete the add action, will come.
Nothing happens. Now I said that this one is okay, right? This is a good one. But there's a better one. Because what if I do this and then click on the count up, for example, a start, and click here and type 5 or 65, I would like to count up. I want it to be 66, 67, so it doesn't work like that. I need to do a better one. The better one is not involving this. The better one will be involving, before this number, I'm just going to get what was in the text field before. I mean, this number, I would like to get what was in the text field, so I'm going to do this get text. And then this number, I'm going to increment it. And then I'm going to convert it back to a string, so I can put it inside the text field. But there's a problem here. I cannot get text is a string. You cannot put a string inside of an int. So I need to convert a string to an int. There's one way to do that. Well, value of gives you int to string. I would like to have the opposite of value of. Well, there's something, but this time I want it to be an integer. There's integer dot. At this time it's not value of. It's don't remember. I forgot. It's parse int. If you do something like this, now integer parse int, what does it do? Parse the string argument as a signed decimal integer. So it's going to convert. It takes in a string, and then it converts it to an int. Now see, it takes as an argument. Okay, it doesn't want to show up. It takes as an argument a string, and it returns an int. And it's a static, that's why I can use it directly without creating any object. I'm just calling the class dot and then the method. Yes. You make it double. Yeah, double dot parse double. Double also has parse double, which is the same idea. Double dot and then there's parse. There's parse double. That takes a string and then it returns a double.
If you're gonna text.
Now getText gives you what's inside here. I thought I was running. Now this getText gives you what's inside here. And then this is what the getText does. Because this is a getter of the text. So you get the text. Set, it's set in the text. But this is not going to work. Because the first time when I click on count up, getText will return what? Nothing, it's empty. Can you convert empty to a number? No. And I'd like you to see the error message that I'm going to get. If I click on this one, well, I was hoping to see, yes, here it is. Number format exception. For input string, this is an empty text, a text that has nothing inside, and it would like to convert it. Can you convert that? You cannot convert this. So you get an exception that happened. Now how to fix that? To fix it, I need to put a value inside of it. So when I'm initializing the text field, immediately after doing this, I can put set text to be 0. Of course, I need to put 0 between double quotes because it's a string. Set text only takes a string. Now what happens is that when I run this, now as you can see, this is put in 0. When I count up, it will just go up. If I put any number now and keep counting up, it just keeps going up. Well, we're getting to that. But are you okay with this? Now, the new thing now that you realized, when I'm dealing with the input and output, these text fields, I'm always using strings. But if I'd like to use numbers to do some kind of calculations, I need to convert. So that's why what I'm doing here, I get the text as a string, I convert it to a number, and then I do the operation that I'd like to do, and then from that number I convert it to a string and I put it back into the text field. So as you can see, I start from the text field, get what is inside of it, convert it, do something with it, and then convert it back to a text field, to a string, to put it inside the text field.
Again, after the last,
This one? This is just,
convert string to int.
yeah, for example, I can do something like this, text, and then do something like this, so it will be much clearer, the different steps. I convert from string to text, from string to int, and put it here. I do the operation that I want to do. I convert from int to string, and I put the result into this text result into the text field. Let me maybe put it like this, text result.
The first int number, which text will receive?
Which value you mean?
Yes.
Whatever was in the text field. But the first time, I made sure that I initialized it by putting 0. So I know that there's something in it the first time. But again, you see, if someone does this and then click on count up, it's going to raise an exception. But that's another story. We'll deal with that later. But at least if the user is not doing something wrong and he puts a number, it's going to work. Now if the user types something like this is going to also be an exception. There's another exception. These are two exceptions now. If I can right click and then I can clear, it will erase, so you can see the new one coming up. If I click on it, now there's a new one coming up. Why? Because this cannot be converted to a number. But we'll talk about these exceptions inshallah later, how to deal with them. But for now we're going to at least assume that when I'm running this, at least when I run it, I'm just putting this, so if the user clicks on count up, it will work normally.
0 is a string, right?
Yes, it is.
But when you write
Because when I execute this the first time, this is going to be
string
0. This 0 is going to be converted to an int, so it will be 0. Now this will make it 1, which means now this is 1, the number 1. 1 is going to be converted from an int to a string, so it will be the text one, and then I'm going to put the text one inside the text. So that's what happened. Everybody's okay?
The 0 is a string, right, Doctor?
The 0 is a string, yes.
If you write,
See?
if the 0 become more like house or
Well, it's not going to work. You have an exception.
change the string to an text 0.
How can you change this to an int? That's the problem. We'll deal with that later. Those cases are not part of this demonstration, but we'll deal with them, inshallah. But now, for now, I just would like you to realize that when you're dealing with a text field, it's only text that goes inside, and you get only text from it. So if you would like to get some numbers, like for example the calculator that we have here, let's say there's a calculator here. This is an application calculator that is using some kind of a text field here, or so maybe this is a label. Now this label also displays only text and gets only a text. So what happens is now you know more than any normal user that when I'm typing these or type these are going to be converted to strings so I can see them, and then when I'm doing an operation, these are going to be converted to a number, and then the result converted to a string too so I can see it. So there's a lot of conversion going on from string to text, from string to number, number to string. Yes.
Can I have a label inside of a text field?
A label inside of a text field? No. Unless you put them one on top of each other. But yeah. Yes. Yeah, it will. If you put -5, hold on here. -5, it will just count downwards.
Can I look at the set text -1?
Here, yes. As long as it's a text, you can put whatever you want. -40, and then you keep going, and that's it. Now the first thing it's going to see is -40 now, and then if you count up, it's just going to go down. Nice, right? Now the things, and then I'd like it to give you some time so I can practice those. What if I'd like to have this same button, which is count down? I'd like to have another button. So this is, I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call it button up. I'd like to have another one, copy and paste, that I'm going to call button down. Now this button down, I need to initialize it. Let's do it after. Now this button down is going to be count down. And of course I need to also to edit. After the up, I'm going to have the down. Now if I run, you're going to see this is how it looks like. Well, I don't have a lot of space, so maybe I should increase the size a little bit so I can have more space. But hold on, this is the height. The width is this one, so let's make 400. So now I have all these here. Now this one works, this one doesn't, because there's no action associated to it. Now if I'm using this same method, I can just also do the same thing. You know, this is for bottom up. I'm going to do the same thing for button down. Just add Actionlistener to be this. But then there's a problem. Now either I click on this one or that one, both of them are going to do the same thing. If I click on this one, it goes up. If I click on this one, it goes up. So both of them are going up. So that's not a good option. So because now what I'm saying is everyone, when I click, they come here. Now here I should do something. I should have some kind of a if. If this is button, do this. If this is another button, do that. And this is what I'm going to do. What if what? How can I say this is the button number 1 or button number 2? Well, check this argument here. This action event. When I'm clicking on a button, the action event is going to do something. It's going to get, I'm going to have something. I'm going to add the question that is the e dot. I'm having some get action command. This get action command returns the command string associated with this action, which means basically this get action command is going to tell me who did this, which button clicked here. But for you to see it, I would like you to see it. So what I'm going to do, because this e.getAction command returns a string. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put that string inside the text field so you can see what actually inside of it. So the text field, I'm going to set the text to be the e.getAction command. And now if I run, if I click here, oh, it shows the text of the button that I clicked on. If I click on here, that's the text of the button that I clicked on. Now I know by just looking at inside this get action command which button was clicked on, and then I can decide which action should be taken. And let's do that. So what I'm going to do, and if else, I'm going to say if the get action command, this is a string, right? Equals, I know what's the button is, so I'm going to say is equals to count up. Now I know that this is what should happen. Else, while I have only two buttons, if it's not count up, it should be count down. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the same thing, but instead of plus plus, it's minus minus. Well, I can do things better, but I'm making things simple just for you not to get lost into the rest. But what I meant is that I can, because I'm repeating these, the difference between this one and this one is what? This one is plus plus, the other one is minus minus. I could have done this. Take this, put it up, and take these, put them outside. And all I need to do is this, something like this. So I'm going to get the number as a string, convert it to a number, an int, check what should I do, plus plus or minus minus, and then take the result as a string again and display it to the text field. So the only difference is that instead of always doing plus plus, I'm going to do sometimes plus plus, sometimes minus minus, based on what was clicked on. And somebody had a question? Yes?
Can I have two methods without
No. With this way, no, you can't. If you have this class, the frame, that implements an action listener, the only options if you have more than one button is to have this kind of if else. But this is not good. This is good. I mean, this is simple. If you have only one button, maybe two, in a frame, you can handle this if else. But what if you have 10 buttons? It doesn't work. That's not a good option. There's a better one, and we're going to see those better ones. But for now, let's just get something that works, and then we'll get better ones later. We'll improve later. Now, with this one, if I click on count up, it goes up. Count down, it goes down. And up and down and up and down. Well, I did not have now any difference between them. I have only one action now. The only thing that I added is this if else. Yes, here, this is the button up, this is the button, the countdown. Two buttons that I declared here. And now the button up is just having this text, and it's associated to this action listener. And then the bottom down is associated to the same action listener. Now every time I click on this button, now if I click on this button, it comes here. If I click on this button, it comes here. So it goes here all the time. But when it comes here, I know with this, if this get action command gives me this text here, I know that this is the button that was clicked on, and that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to increment. If it's not, that means it's the other button, and I would like to decrement. So I know which button was clicked on, so I can distinguish between the two. Is that okay? Now one last thing which is kind of useful is sometimes there's something we see a lot, but also it's shown here. There's some kind of reset button that I can have. What does the reset button do? Well, generally a reset button just puts back to 0, for example. That's what we'd like to add, and then so we can finish this exercise, and then we will improve it later, inshallah. But now I'd like you just to get the whole picture. I need a third button, so I'm going to add a third button reset. Notice the name. I always keep the names of my buttons, of my labels, having this type of prefix every time. Why? Because when I just read the name of the variable, I know what it is. I know it's a button, this one I know it's a label, this one I know it's a text field. So if I have many text fields, I will have text field 1, text field TF1, TF2. If I have many labels, I have LBL1, LBL2, but I'm not going to use LBL1 and LBL2. I'm going to use, for example, the name of that LBL. So, but anyways, it's kind of clear here. You can just, by reading the variable names, you can understand what they are. And I'm going to add this variable, initialize it again. This one I'm going just to mention reset. And add it to the same thing. Of course, I need to change this to reset. But now I have 3 options, so the else is not going to work like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put an else if. Else if what? So if this was up, I do this. If it was down, I do that. If it's not none of those, what I'm going to do? Yeah, but you know, I'm also having this before, this after. No, I don't want to send out print. I would like to be in the text field. So number to 0, and which means now this number 0 is going to be converted to a text, and I'm going to see 0. So if I run, count up is going to, oh, where it is? Oh, I did not add it. Well, yeah. See, the button is there, but I did not add it here. So the button is not here, it doesn't show it. So I'd like to add it after the button down. So reset. And of course I need to increase the size because now the size is going to be kind of cramped. So it's longer. Not enough. Make it even longer. And now I have the count up, count down, reset. Count down, reset. Count up. And all these 3 buttons are working. Yes?
If I, instead of using this method, if I use it in inner classes, each button is in inner class.
Yeah, we'll see that. Each one will have a special class,
yeah,
just for the button.
When I want to use it, I'll just make an object, right?
Yes, of that specific class.
Yeah.
Yes. So, are you okay with this? So what I'd like you to do, let's just implement this so you can see this and make it work. And then we're going to improve it so we can have each one of these actions separated for each button, which actually is better, more organized. So let me free you before let's stop this.